Now, the Three Martini Lunch with Greg Corombos and Jim Garrity.
And welcome, everyone, to the Tuesday edition of the Three Martini Lunch. Along with Jim Garrity of National Review, I'm Greg Corombos of Radio America. Good, bad, and crazy martinis for conservatives. And Jim, as we begin our good martini today, I'd just like to take our listeners back in time. Back to November of 2013. It was a Wednesday, and we were not in a good mood because voters in Virginia, for some reason, had chosen Terry McAuliffe to be the next governor of the Commonwealth over a rock-ribbed conservative like Ken Cuccinelli. We were running through the reasons that Cuccinelli lost and could have won, and at the end of our conversation, you said there is some consolation here, and that's that Terry McAuliffe might not actually be governor for all 4 years. And you gave a number of scenarios as to why that could be.
4 years from now, Terry McAuliffe will probably not be in office. It could be he's resigned to become finance chair of Hillary Clinton's presidential campaign. It could be that he has taken a position in a Hillary Clinton administration or indictment. Your call. You'll place your bets now. We'll see.
Well, number one hasn't happened. Number three is more likely as a result of news that broke on Tuesday. CNN broke the story. Here's the reporter that did so, Evan Perez, explaining how Terry McAuliffe is now under FBI investigation.
At least part of the focus has been on campaign donations and whether or not they violated the law. Now, in particular, one donation that they looked into were contributions from a wealthy Chinese businessman, Wang Wenliang. As part of this investigation, the FBI also has gone back to look at McAuliffe's time as a board member for the Clinton Global Initiative. Now, that's a foundation that was set up by former President Bill Clinton and his family.
Oh, Jim, the tentacles here could really get delicious. We're back to Chinese campaign contributions here, which ought to be reminiscent of the 90s, and now there could be ties to the Clinton Foundation, the Clinton Global Initiative. This is pretty juicy.
Yeah, I was going to say, Greg, I'd really like to pat myself on the back for seeing that coming, except that everybody. That by itself, McAuliffe under investigation, I think they just have that as a default template over at the Richmond Times-Dispatch. It's not that smart on my part to have foreseen that scenario. In case anyone forgot, it was just a couple of months after he took office, he started offering special meetings with him for $100,000 donations to his PAC. And the Washington Post editorial at the time was, who could have seen this coming? Well, you yourself said he had a long history of this in your endorsement of him. Well done, Washington Post editorial board. But a couple of things in this story kind of jumped out at me a little further down. CNN reported that investigators also have looked at McAuliffe's tenure as a board member of the Clinton Global Initiative, an initiative of the Clinton Foundation. The Clinton Foundation has come under criticism for taking millions in donations from foreign governments. CBS has reported that in 2013, this is a Chinese donor to McAuliffe, Wang Wenliang, a Chinese businessman who donated $120,000 to McAuliffe's campaign. By the way, Greg, can foreigners just come and write checks to governors? Is that cool? Because
only Democrats.
Bob McDonald might have something to say about that.
Right.
As somebody pointed out, somewhere in Richmond, there is a big industrial sign saying it has been X number of days since the FBI investigated our governor. It's back to zero this morning. But so in the amount, CBS reported that in 2013, Wang's Relin Enterprises pledged $2 million to the Clinton Foundation, and Wang is a delegate to the Chinese parliament. Now, Greg, the members of the Chinese government with enormous financial resources are donating to the Clinton Foundation. One, Greg, does it feel like the news is in the reruns from the 90s?
Yes.
I feel like I've seen this on a VH1 special or something. And then secondly, doesn't this concern anybody? Isn't this Drudge siren level material? Aren't we supposed to be saying, no, you're not allowed, China's not allowed to give lots of money to our presidential candidates? Apparently they are. Apparently it's no big deal. As long as you do it through the Clinton Foundation, which is totally not the Clinton campaign, even though they pay for all the travel expenses of the Clintons. So there you go. So on one hand, very ominous and disturbing ramifications of this, but if you always figure that someday we would see Terry McAuliffe being chased by police state troopers in a television camera from helicopter in a high-speed chase through the streets of Richmond, that day may be coming, and I think his electric car will run out of fuel before he can get away.
If only all the cast from the 90s could come back for this, because that would mean Fred Thompson would be back. But
there you go. Yeah.
And it was not a good day for McAuliffe, even beyond that, because the Republicans decided to sue him over let all the violent felons vote plan. So good job, Terry McAuliffe. Good job. All right. On to the bad martini now, Jim. And Lindsey Graham has flirted with a lot of different presidential candidates in this cycle, starting with himself. Then it was Jeb Bush briefly, even though it was pretty obvious at that point the good SS Jeb Bush was taking on way too much water. Right around that time, he made the comment that the choice between Ted Cruz and Donald Trump was the choice between getting shot or being poisoned, and he then elected to get shot by endorsing Ted Cruz, and then Cruz dropped out, and now I guess he would like a little alcohol with his bullets. So Lindsey Graham, according to Hot Air, has decided to quietly tell Republican donors to get behind Donald Trump. The story from CNN says Graham urged GOP donors at a private fundraiser Saturday in Florida to unite behind Trump's campaign and stress the importance of keeping likely Democratic nominee Hillary Clinton from the White House. Given that Graham has said that electing Trump would be the end of civilization as we know it, Jazz Shaw here at Hot Air is basically saying that he's come to the conclusion that Hillary Clinton is even worse. So Jim, hasn't been a good cycle for a lot of people, but Lindsey Graham especially.
How do you think those calls and that message worked? There we go. I hate this man. He is like a cancer on the presidency. He is dangerous. He will endanger our people. But you got to vote for him because he's not Hillary Clinton. I mean, that's really setting a low bar there. And I suppose you could say, wow, good for Lindsey Graham being a team player, or you could say, hey, I guess nothing you said earlier meant that much to you, Lindsey Graham. Alternately, what would it take for you to say, yeah, I just can't vote for the guy. I'm not supporting the guy, not encouraging people to donate, just can't do it. For a lot of these people, I'm kind of wondering, do we, he reads Mein Kampf or something. We've already said shooting people on 6th Avenue is okay. And I could see the bit, well, they're probably Democrats. He's just, he's thinning the herd a little bit that way. But no, it's kind of been a fascinating about face for Lindsey Graham. And, the Trump fans will like it. I think most of us will look at this and say that ultimately this means most of the warnings and statements made during primaries clearly don't mean anything when he basically is saying, hey, vote for the guy who I compared to being shot. or wait, was he shot or was Cruz poisoned or was it vice versa?
I think Trump was the bullet, but I can't be sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
Number one with a bullet.
Although then he had the joke about Ted Cruz being shot and getting away with it if it happened in the Senate. So his metaphors have been all over the place in this campaign. It's been a difficult time for Lindsey, and most conservatives probably don't have a lot of sympathy for him.
We should give him a call. We have his number, right?
Not anymore.
Yeah.
All right, on to the crazy martini now, and this occurred yesterday at the Christian Science Monitor breakfast. But yesterday, VA Secretary Robert McDonald, not the former governor of Virginia, but the former head of Procter & Gamble, who was brought in to fix the VA after the wait time scandal erupted 2 years ago with the cooked books and veterans having to wait months and months to get an appointment, and many of them dying before they ever saw a doctor. Well, yesterday at the breakfast, one reporter asked Secretary McDonald about wait times, and specifically about the create date situation, which is the length of time between when a veteran actually requests an appointment and they actually see a doctor. Crazy way to measure it, I know. Here's what Secretary McDonald had to say about why he thinks that's an unfair way to gauge the effectiveness of the VA.
What really counts is how does the veteran feel about their encounter with the VA. When you go to Disney, do they measure the number of hours you wait in line, or the number, what's important? What's important is what's your satisfaction with the experience.
What's your satisfaction? How do you feel about it, Jim? How do you feel about your months-long wait before getting care, or being compared to getting onto Space Mountain?
It turns out it's not that small a world after all. In part because there are so many millions of veterans still waiting for care. This is indisputably a stupid thing for McDonald to say. But I want to point out, and I put this up in the corners in the Morning Jolt, a bigger deal is the fact that the performance of the VA isn't that much better. And there's kind of a wide variety of areas you can point to. Probably most importantly, General Accounting Office did a review of the kind of waits that they were seeing, and they were saying, look, we still find the wait time to be anywhere from 3 weeks to 8 weeks if you're a new patient to the veterans healthcare system. And that's a lot. And the VA said, well, actually, no, most of the time it's within 30 days, and the average is 3 to 6. But here's the big difference. Most people would say, oh, how long does it take you to get an appointment? When you pick up the phone and call and say, hey, I want an appointment. Apparently, you leave a message in a lot of these cases. And when the VA counts it, it's from when they return your call to when you actually have the appointment. As you can tell, that's a very different starting point. And if you do the math on that, you can figure out that most people are waiting several weeks just to hear back on when they can get an appointment. So he's really not done nearly as much improvement on reducing the wait times. There are still reports, according to a big study by USA Today, employees in 19 states are zeroing out the wait times, meaning that manipulating them, saying that there was no wait time when in fact there was. Some of the superiors of these employees are telling them, no, go ahead and do this. We need to get our numbers down. The first thing McDonald did when he said the jobs, we had to trust is essential to everything we do. I'm not going to tolerate those who stifle legitimate concerns and things like that. You can point out to the Veterans Choice is a program that's designed to give them a card so they can go to see non-VA doctors. That program is a giant, complicated mess. You can put a little bit of blame on Congress for forcing them to enact it very quickly, but there's that. There's a hospital that's $1 billion over the initial cost estimate. They're spending hundreds of thousands of dollars on art and consulting. All the kind of incompetency in government and waste and fraud and stupidity you've come to expect. So if you ask me, Greg, this is why you should get rid of McDonald. Not a stupid comment comparing it to Disneyland. Having said that, you're going to see veterans groups screaming bloody murder about this. But all in all, Greg, with only like 6 months or so left in the Obama administration, like the easiest thing is just leave him in place and let the new veteran secretary deal with it. And it's just kind of a frustrating sense that the status quo continues. Obama promised he was going to fix this. Not much has been fixed. And hey, what are you going to do? He's going to go have lunch with Anthony Bourdain.
Unbelievable.
But it's not a reality show, Greg.
No, not at all.
Presidency is not a reality show. You just hang out with them a lot.
Well, we laugh because otherwise we would cry, as Jim famously says. Jim, talk to you tomorrow.
See you tomorrow, Greg.
Jim Garrity of National Review. I'm Greg Corombos of Radio America. Thanks for being with us today. Please join us again on Wednesday for the next 3 Martini Lunch.